You know what's funny about horror movies? Everyone always say that they would have survived that, or I would have just done this instead. Well, I've spent years of my life watching tons of horror movies, and I've found 8 new threats that you absolutely would not survive, no matter how smart you think you are. And no, do not comment "I'm built different" on this video, because I promise you by the end of this video, you will see why you are not built different. You don't want to know why? Because the people that actually would survive these horror movie monsters, they've subscribed to my channel and liked this video already, which you haven't. So obviously you're not going to live. But let's start with something that seems exotic, but would absolutely wreck your day. The Kappa from Bloat. Picture this: your family vacation to Tokyo turns into a living nightmare when your little brother nearly drowns in a lake and comes back different. Oh, just a fondness for cucumbers and some aggressive behavior? No big deal, right? Wrong. So incredibly f***ing wrong. The Kappa isn't just some cute mythological creature from Japanese folklore. It's a malevolent water demon that literally possesses its victims from the inside out. Think you could fight it? Let me explain why you're delusional. First, these creatures have supernatural strength that make your CrossFit obsession look like a toddler doing jumping jacks. Once the Kappa takes hold, the possessed individual exhibits strength beyond human capability. In Bloat, we see young Kyle, a child, throwing grown adults across the room with ease. But I would just restrain them. Okay, Janice, good f***ing luck restraining someone whose muscles and tendons can bend and flex in ways that defy human anatomy. Oh, and remember, this is someone you love. Are you really gonna duct tape your child, spouse, or sibling to a chair? You know what? Don't answer that. I know there's a couple of you that probably would do that. Respect. But even the Marine father in the movie couldn't bring himself to truly harm his possessed son. And that hesitation, that's exactly why you would be dead within hours. The second reason you're absolutely screwed is the Kappa's home field advantage. These demons are aquatic by nature, which means any water source, even your bathroom sink, becomes their power station. In Bloat, the family makes the classic mistake of thinking they could just avoid water. Spoiler alert, the human body is 60% water. You literally can't escape it. The Kappa can sense and manipulate water within its vicinity, turning your morning shower, that puddle outside, or even your own pee against you. Yeah, that's right, you're gonna be pissing out a demon. But what's truly terrifying about the Kappa isn't just its physical abilities though. It's the psychological warfare you gotta endure when you deal with it. The possessed victim retains enough of their original personality to manipulate those around them. Mom, I'm scared. What's happening to me? 1 minute, then ripping someone's throat out the next. Your emotional attachment becomes your biggest weakness. And knowing myself, I get emotionally attached. I'm not gonna be able to stop a demon if it's taken over my child. Unlike a zombie or a serial killer that you can emotionally detach from, this creature wears the face of someone you love. When you really think about it, that's kind of beautiful, because love's important. Look to the person sitting next to you right now. Tell them you love them. And if nobody is sitting next to you, that's just a reminder that you're gonna be alone forever, just like me. And finally, there's the unpredictability factor. The Kappa doesn't follow human logic or patterns. In this movie, the family keeps thinking they've figured out the triggers or rules, only to discover they're completely wrong. You think you're smart because you've seen every horror movie and know all the tropes? Well, the Kappa's been around for centuries, pal. It's seen every survival tactic in the book and evolved to counter them all. In the cruelest aspect of them all, the Kappa keeps its victims conscious enough to witness everything. That's right, you'd be aware of every horrible thing your body is doing while being completely powerless to stop it. The scene where Kyle briefly regains control just long enough to cry for help before slaughtering his best friend, that's the true horror of Bloat. The complete violation of autonomy while maintaining awareness. So no, Mr. I just stay under the water, you wouldn't survive. Not when the creature can use your emotions, your biology, and your loved ones against you. The Kappa isn't just killing you, it's turning you into the weapon that destroys everything you care about. But if water demons aren't terrifying enough for you, wait till you see how an ordinary backyard pool turns into a horror movie. So based on our last movie, you'd probably just think you could avoid a creepy lake in Japan. Well, that's smart. But what about that inviting backyard pool? The suburban status symbol that's supposed to increase your property value and not your chances of a horrific death. Well, Night Swim takes something as innocent as a backyard pool and turns it into your own personal watery hell. Well, I would just never go swimming at night. Yeah, that's cute. This isn't just about taking a midnight dip. This entity doesn't operate on your schedule. The evil force in Night Swim is powered by an ancient spring spring with a history older than your country. It doesn't care about your Instagram worthy pool floats or your no diving signs. This thing has been luring people to their death since before your great grandparents were even born. And what makes this pool particularly nasty is how it targets you specifically. Unlike a random killer or monster that's just looking for anyone to murder, this entity studies you. It learns what you want most and dangles it right in front of you. In Night Swim, Ray, a former baseball player with MS, experiences miracle improvements in his condition after swimming in the pool. Tell me honestly, if you were suffering from a disease and suddenly found relief, would you really question it, or would you dive right back in? Well, I'm not desperate for anything, so I wouldn't fall for it. Sure, buddy, we all want something. Health, success, love, validation, Arby's. The entity is basically an evil genie with a chlorine habit. Remember how Ray's improvements aren't just physical but also emotional? The pool shows him visions of his glory days, letting him relive his baseball career. That's psychological manipulation on a level that makes your ex look like an amateur. The true horror of Night Swim isn't just drowning, it's the way it corrupts the family unit from within. Ray becomes the pool's puppet, gradually turning against his own family. His wife Eve notices the change but gaslights herself because she wants to believe in his recovery. How many relationships fall apart because people ignore red flags? Now imagine those red flags are actually supernatural warnings that your loved one is becoming possessed by your backyard amenity. And here's the really messed up part. The pool doesn't just want you, it wants a sacrifice. That's right, this fancy water rectangle operates on ancient rules of exchange. You get something, it takes something. Typically, that something is your child or a loved one. The scene where Ray, now fully under the pool's influence, tries to drown his own son is peak suburban nightmare fuel. Your McMansion dream home just became a death trap. Even if you somehow manage to resist the pool's allure, the entity can physically drag you in. Those mysterious ripples when no one's swimming, that's not the filter system acting up. That's an ancient force deciding you've been dry for too long. The pool isn't just in your backyard, it's connected to underground waterways that extend far beyond your property line. You can't drain it, you can't fill it with concrete, and you certainly can't outrun water that can travel through pipes in your own home. But hey, at least pools are obvious threats once you know about them. Our next monster, these Norwegian behemoths make your backyard swimming hole look like a kiddie pool. Trust me, when a 200-foot troll decides you look tasty, no amount of "I'll just hide indoors" is gonna save your Mountain Dew chugging ass. Alright, let's talk about Troll Hunter, a movie that turns those cute little dolls with the colorful hair into your worst nightmare. These aren't your internet trolls leaving nasty comments on your TikTok dance videos either. These are ancient mountain-sized men that use your bones as toothpicks. Let's start with the obvious. These things are massive. We're talking make King Kong look like a squirrel massive. The mountain troll in the film stands taller than most buildings, with arms thick as tree trunks and a stride that covers half a football field. Your brilliant plan to outrun it? That's adorable. The average human runs about 8 miles per hour. These trolls can cover that distance in a single step. That track star status you brag about from your high school days won't mean shit when a foot the size of a compact car is about to squash you. But I've seen all the Bear Grylls shows, I just hide in the wilderness. Oh dude, trolls have been living in those Norwegian forests since before humans invented pants. They know every cave, every hollow, every potential hiding spot. Not to mention, they can smell you from miles away, especially if you're Christian. Yeah, that's a weird detail from Norwegian folklore that the movie keeps hammering home. Trolls can literally smell Christian blood, so unless you're planning to renounce your faith while running for your life, they've got your scent. The truly terrifying thing about trolls isn't just their size, it's their regenerative abilities. In Troll Hunter, we see Hans, the government's professional troll hunter, using specialized UV light weapons because conventional firearms are about as effective as throwing marshmallows. You think your dad's hunting rifle is gonna save you? Well, these creatures can heal from most wounds almost instantly. Even if you somehow manage to injure one, congratulations, you've now made it angry. And an angry troll is even more unpredictable than a regular one. Let's talk about that unpredictability for a second. Unlike human antagonists who have clear motives or even animals that follow instinctual patterns, trolls in this film behave in ways that defy logic. Sometimes they hunt, sometimes they destroy, sometimes they just wander. There's no pattern to learn, no behavior to anticipate. Hans, who spent his entire life hunting these creatures, still gets surprised by them. Your weekend warrior survival kills aren't gonna cut it. Well, I would just hide inside and wait for daylight. Sure, if you can find a concrete bunker that can withstand the force of something that can uproot entire trees with one hand. Regular houses, they'll tear through those like they're made of cardboard. And yes, while sunlight can turn trolls to stone, waiting for dawn when a hungry troll is hunting you is like trying to survive a tsunami by holding your breath. Theoretically possible, practically f***ing stupid. The government in Troll Hunter has an entire secret agency dedicated to controlling these things with specialized equipment, decades of experience, and they still lose people regularly. What do you have? A pocket knife and an overinflated sense of confidence. Good luck with that. But what's even more chilling than facing trolls is confronting the monsters that walk among us wearing human faces. You know, at least trolls are big, giant, ugly things that you can see coming. Our next horror movie hides behind a gentle smile and the promise of safety. And that's why The Girl with the Needle might be the most disturbing entry on our list. The Girl with the Needle is a movie where the villain isn't a supernatural entity or a giant beast. It's just a woman named Dagmar who happens to murder babies for a living. Based on real-life Danish serial killer Dagmar Overby, this film proves that the scariest predators are the ones hiding behind a smile and a cup of tea. Set in 1919 Copenhagen after World War I, this horror hits differently because it plays on our most basic human vulnerabilities: desperation and trust. I'd spot a killer right away, you say, sitting comfortably on your couch with your snacks right now. Sure you would, Sherlock, just like the countless vulnerable women who trusted Dagmar with their newborns never suspected a thing. When you're a young mother, abandoned by society, desperate for work, and someone offers you shelter and employment, you don't exactly run a background check. What makes Dagmar truly terrifying isn't just what she does, but how methodically she does it. She doesn't lurk in shadows or creep around at night. She operates a legitimate-looking adoption agency in broad daylight. She pays taxes. She's respected in the community. The movie chillingly portrays how she uses the societal systems to her advantage, which are the exact systems designed to protect people becoming her hunting grounds. Well, I wouldn't be that desperate, you say, as if economic hardship is something you're immune to. The true horror of The Girl with the Needle is that it shows how thin society really is. When Caroline, our protagonist, loses her husband in the war and faces starvation, any port in a storm seems like salvation. Dagmar doesn't need supernatural powers. She has something far more effective. She provides the basic necessities people need to survive. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. Dagmar uses ether to drug her victims, removing their ability to resist. The scene where Caroline realizes she's been drugged but can't move her limbs, that's not just physically terrifying, it's an existential nightmare. Your body no longer belongs to you. You're aware but helpless, watching horror unfold without being able to stop it. No amount of "I'd fight back" helps when your nervous system has been chemically hijacked. The most chilling aspect of Dagmar isn't her methods though, it's her rationale. In the film, she doesn't see herself as a monster, but as someone performing a necessary service. She believes she's sparing these babies from a life of poverty and suffering. That warped compassion makes her actions even more unpredictable and her character more complex. How do you reason with someone who genuinely believes murder is mercy? What The Girl with the Needle shows is that true horror often exists in broad daylight, operating within the systems we trust. No supernatural strength is required, no massive size advantage, just patience, calculation, and an understanding of human vulnerability. Dagmar doesn't need to chase you. She waits for life to bring you to her doorstep, broken and desperate. Remember, this movie is based on a real case. Dagmar Overby murdered between 9 and 25 babies, and she wasn't caught because of clever detective work or because someone sensed she was evil. She was caught because of a paperwork discrepancy. So much for "I can spot a killer from a mile away" superhuman abilities, right? And speaking of paperwork failing us, let's move from the analog horrors of the early 20th century to the digital apocalypse of 1999, the year I was born. Hell yeah, bitches, I caused Y2K. So if you're like me and you're too young to even remember what Y2K is, basically the entire world thought the world was gonna melt down because of some clock thing on a computer when we turned to like the year 2000. Most of the people on Earth just laughed it off when nothing happened. Well, Y2K shows the alternate timeline where we weren't so lucky. This is where your toaster, your TV, and even your precious gaming console decided that humanity had a good run, but now it's time for the machines to take over. I just unplug everything, it's a computer! Great plan, Einstein, except in this movie, the Y2K bug doesn't just crash computers. It creates a technological consciousness that spreads faster than those dance challenges you keep failing at. Every electronic device becomes part of a coordinated assault. That vintage boombox, it's now a teeth-gnashing monster. Your car, a 2,000-pound death trap that locks you inside. Even your Tamagotchi is plotting your demise. And you already killed it 3 times last week through neglect. What do you think it's about to do to you? What makes Y2K truly terrifying is the sheer number of threats. nuts. Think about how many electronic devices are in your home right now. Your phone, laptop, TV, microwave, refrigerator, game consoles, smart speakers, that thing that your mom keeps in her sock drawer. I'm betting you got at least 15 to 20 devices minimum. Now imagine all of them simultaneously deciding you look like a snack and not the kind you keep in your pantry. The average American household in 1999 had fewer devices than we do today, and they were still overwhelmed. And let's be honest about your technical expertise for a second. When your Wi-Fi goes down, your first solution is to unplug the router, wait 10 seconds, and plug it back in. If that doesn't work, you're already Googling the customer service number, and if that doesn't work, you're throwing it in rice. Who does this? What exactly is your plan when the problem isn't just the internet not working, but the internet is actively trying to murder you? You don't know how these devices actually function, and now they're functioning specifically to eliminate you. The infrastructure collapse is another aspect that would doom you instantly. In Y2K, communications go down first. No calls for help, no emergency services, no checking Twitter to see if everyone else's blender is also trying to puree their face. You're on your own, cut off from information and assistance. Modern humans can barely handle a power outage for a few hours without having an existential crisis. Now you're facing technological Armageddon with nothing but your wits. And let's be honest, those aren't your strong suit. I would just go somewhere without technology. Where exactly would that be in 1999? Let alone today. Even rural areas have electricity, vehicles, and basic appliances. And I would know because I grew up on a fucking farm in the middle of nowhere. Even our neighbor, who is an actual hermit who lived in a box, had a radio. The movie shows that even battery-powered devices aren't safe, so that wilderness survival plan might sound good until you realize your car won't let you leave the driveway. In fact, it's already locked the doors and is cranking the heat up to human soup levels. The most disturbing part of Y2K isn't just the killer machines, it's how quickly human society collapses when technology turns against us. We've built our entire civilization on devices that we don't understand, maintain, or respect. That New Year's Eve party quickly devolves from celebrating the millennium to fighting for survival as disco balls turn into orbital weapons and stereo systems launch sonic attacks that liquefy internal organs. So while you're thinking you'd outsmart your toaster with your incredible strategy of throw water on electronics, which by the way would just create electrified water puddles, remember that your entire modern existence depends on technology behaving itself. Take that away, or worse, turn it actively hostile and you're just a soft, slow primate with no claws or fangs, facing an enemy that never sleeps, never tires, and is literally everywhere. But if you think machines turning against you is bad, wait until we talk about sleep, because there's nothing quite like the horror of watching someone you love become a danger to everyone around them, all while they're completely unconscious. At least the killer robots know they want you dead. Sleep, the movie, not the actual act, takes the peaceful act of catching some Z's and turns it into a terrifying ordeal where the monster isn't under the bed. It's the person sleeping next to you, completely unaware of the horror they're causing. This Korean horror follows a wife and a husband, where the husband develops increasingly violent sleepwalking habits. We'll just wake him up, you say, like you've solved the world's problems. Great idea, except decades of medical advice warns against abruptly waking sleepwalkers, since it can trigger violent reactions. This isn't your roommate drunkenly mumbling about pizza. This is a full-grown man with superhuman sleep strength who doesn't recognize you when his eyes are open, but his brain is still in dreamland. What makes sleepwalking uniquely terrifying is that it transforms the most vulnerable state we experience, sleep, into something dangerous. We all sleep. It's not optional. You can choose not to go swimming. You can avoid adoption agencies run by suspicious Danish women, but unless you're planning to join the ranks of fatal insomnia sufferers, you will eventually need to sleep. Well, I would just lock them in the bedroom or tie them to the bed. Ah yes, nothing says healthy marriage like restraining each other. Wait. Never mind. Setting aside the ethical issues, the film shows that traditional restraints don't work. Sleepwalkers display bizarre and sometimes superhuman strength. There's a scene where the husband breaks through a door that's been reinforced specifically to contain him. Your cute little plan to use fuzzy handcuffs isn't going to cut it when someone's subconscious has activated their adrenaline while they're sleeping. The psychological horror of sleep comes from the total unpredictability. There's no pattern, no warning signs, no specific trigger to avoid. You're constantly on high alert, never knowing when your loving partner will transform into a danger. Imagine never fully sleeping because you're always listening for movements, always ready to defend yourself from the person who vowed to protect you. The sleep deprivation alone would break most people, let alone the pregnant wife of the film. Your home is basically a prison now. That place that should be your sanctuary becomes a trap. You can't leave because they need your help, but staying might kill you. Every household object becomes a potential weapon, not for you to use in self-defense, but for the sleepwalker to use against you. That cute bedside lamp, that's now a bludgeoning tool. Kitchen knives, better hide those. Stairs, that's a potential death trap for both of you. What elevates Sleep from standard horror to truly disturbing is that there's no villain to hate. The husband is a loving husband when he's awake. He's desperate to fix his condition, devastated by what he might do to his pregnant wife. You can't even be angry at him because he has no control. The scene where he watches video footage of himself during an episode, he's horrified by his own actions. It's gut-wrenching. How do you fight a monster that doesn't know it exists and lives inside someone you love? As the film progresses, the episodes escalate in violence and frequency, suggesting something supernatural might be at play. Is it just a sleep disorder, or is there something more sinister using the husband's unconscious state as a gateway? The uncertainty makes it even more terrifying. Medical solutions won't work on supernatural problems. So while you're confidently claiming you can handle a sleepwalking spouse with ease, remember that your brilliant plans fall apart when you can't stay awake forever. Can't bring yourself to harm someone you love and can't escape your own home. Sometimes the most inescapable horror is the one sharing your pillow. But if being trapped with a dangerous sleepwalker sounds bad, wait until we descend into the Parisian catacombs. In As Above, So Below, the physical maze of tunnels is nothing compared to the psychological labyrinth that forces you to face your deepest regrets and fears. Let's go 370 feet below the streets of Paris into the catacombs. This is a 200-mile maze of tunnels lined with the remains of 6 million dead Parisians. As Above, So Below takes urban exploration and turns it into a one-way ticket to your personal hell, quite literally. The film follows a group of explorers searching for the Philosopher's Stone, which already tells you they're making terrible life choices, but let's pretend it's you down there instead. First problem, you're not Indiana Jones. You struggle to read a subway map, but now you're navigating an underground labyrinth where no GPS works and the tunnels all look identical. There are over 200 miles of passages and only a small portion is officially mapped. The rest? Basically the world's deadliest game of Pac-Man. I've got a great sense of direction, you'd say. Sure you do, buddy. Remember when you got lost in that IKEA for 2 hours and had to eat at their cafeteria because you couldn't find the exit? The catacombs aren't arranged in convenient one-way paths with helpful arrows. They're a confusing network of dead ends, false passages, and chambers that were never meant for the living to navigate. But getting lost is actually the least of your problems. The real horror of As Above, So Below is that these catacombs don't just trap your body, they trap your soul. The deeper you go, the more the environment begins to manifest your deepest regrets, fears, and guilt. Think of it as Facebook's algorithm, but instead of showing you ads for things you Googled once, shows you vivid hallucinations of your worst memories and deepest shames. You left someone on red 5 years ago and still feel bad about it? Down here, you'll see their decomposing corpse calling your name. Cheated on a test in 3rd grade? Your teacher's now a demonic entity chasing you through the tunnels. That phase where you thought fedoras were cool? You'll be forced to relive it all in excruciating detail. The catacombs don't need monsters. They use your own psychological baggage against you. And knowing our generation, we got a lot of baggage. The claustrophobia alone would break most people. These aren't spacious movie tunnels where the camera crew can comfortably film. These are tight, body-width passages where you have to crawl on your stomach through decades of filth, bones, and whatever else lives down there. In one scene, a character gets stuck in a passage so tight she can't even turn her head. If you're the type who gets anxious in a crowded elevator, you'd be having a full psychological meltdown before you even reach the supernatural part. Then there are the physical dangers. Cave-ins, sudden drops, flooded sections, and unstable structures all make the catacombs a death trap even without vengeful spirits. The French government has actually banned access to most of the catacombs precisely because people keep getting lost and dying down there. This isn't a horror movie invention. It's a real-world danger that the film simply amplifies. The true genius of the catacombs horror is that it offers a false hope of escape. As the characters discover, attempting to go back the way they came only leads them deeper. The movie's title, As Above, So Below, references the hermetic principle that suggests what happens in one realm reflects in another. In this case, it means you can only escape your underground hell by passing through it, by confronting and accepting your darkest sins and regrets. And let's be honest, you're still avoiding that one email from 3 weeks ago. You're not ready to face your deepest traumas while being chased by stone demons. But if personalized psychological torture sounds rough, wait until we discuss the feast. This is where Mother Nature herself decides it's payback time. Trust me, you'd rather face your own demons than the wrath of an angry earth. This Welsh folk horror film serves up environmental revenge with a side of body horror that will make you reconsider your carbon footprint. The setting seems innocent enough, a wealthy family in rural Wales hosting a dinner party in their sleek modern home. Enter Katie, the mysterious new waitress who barely speaks but somehow manages to make folding napkins look threatening. Just fire the creepy waitress, you say. Sure, because you're so quick to confront awkward social situations. This is the same brave soul who lets food orders get messed up rather than telling the waiter they got it wrong. What makes Katie truly terrifying isn't outright aggression, it's her patience. Unlike other movie monsters that chase you down, Katie waits. She observes, she lets you destroy yourself with your own greed and arrogance. She's like that friend who knows you're making a terrible decision, but instead of stopping you, she just says, interesting choice, and watches the disaster unfold. The true horror of The Feast lies in its environmental revenge fantasy. The family in this film has made their fortune by exploiting the land, mining, drilling, destroying ancient sites for profit. Sound familiar? We've all benefited from environmental destruction in some way. That phone you're probably watching this on, those minerals came from somewhere, buddy, and Mother Nature kept the receipt. Katie isn't just a person. She's the embodiment of the land's rage. Her supernatural abilities don't follow convenient horror movie rules that you could exploit. The Earth doesn't play fair, doesn't follow logic, and definitely doesn't care about your clever escape plan. You can't outsmart a force that has existed for billions of years before you were born. The isolation is another factor that would doom you instantly. This modern house sits miles from any neighbors, with no reliable phone service because, of course, rich people love to brag about being off the grid. Your panicked call for help would fall on deaf ears, assuming you could even make the call before Katie begins her slow, methodical dismantling of everything you hold dear. What's particularly disturbing about The Feast is the way Katie uses the family's own desires against them. She doesn't need to chase anyone. They willingly consume what she offers. The scene where the family eagerly devours the meal she's prepared, unaware of its horrific ingredients, is both disgusting and poetic. It's a metaphor for how we blindly consume without questioning the source, but it's also just straight up revolting body horror. You might think, I'm environmentally conscious. I recycle. Sometimes. Nature wouldn't target me. Well, that's cute. Tell that to every hurricane, wildfire, or flood that's ever occurred. Natural disasters don't check your recycling history before striking. Katie, as nature's avatar, doesn't distinguish between the slightly wasteful and the outright destructive. To her, humans are the infection, not the individuals. The most horrifying aspect of The Feast is that it suggests there's no redemption, no way to make amends. The land remembers what was taken, and it wants repayment in flesh. The family's attempts to apologize, to bargain, to escape all fail because the time for negotiations ended when they first violated the land. Nature's justice isn't swift, it's inevitable. So while you're sitting there thinking you'd survive because you bring your own bags to the grocery store occasionally, remember that the Earth has been keeping score much longer than you've been playing the game. And in The Feast, the bill comes due with interest. Those are 8 horror movies that you definitely could not survive. Now, after hearing all this, do you think you could still survive? Let me know down in the comments exactly how you would do it. But before you do that, you have to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I think you're full of crap and there's no way you could survive this. But if you want to watch more videos on horror movies that you definitely can't survive, click the video on screen now.